So the players, they are puppets in the whole game.
Exactly.
You can't tell me there's a player bigger than the Black Stars now.
So let's talk about it. Is Dumsor finally back? We need to be able to accept it now. It's not funny.
I'm sorry, it is.
It's not funny.
Actually, I'm not. Hey!
The Twitter.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the 4th episode of Ghana This Week, brought to you by the Sharp Podcast. My name is Zoe, and I'm in the studio today with two very astute gentlemen and Raphael. The two astute gentlemen I have today with me are Frank Osei Bannerman and Kelvin Kwabena Busso.
Hi guys.
Hello everybody, and welcome to today's discussion.
Hi Zoe.
Hi Raul. So we have a guest today, and the guest is in the person of Kelvin Kwabena Busso, the new face. Welcome, Kelvin.
Hi Zoe. Thank you.
So today, as always, we will be discussing the hottest topics of the week, and so let's just get right into it. The first on the list is a conversation that actually ran through the whole week, and it's Black Stars and its failure to qualify for AFCON. Standard, eh? Pretty standard. But I think today's conversation, let's really delve into what the fundamental issues of Black Stars are. Like, even before we talk about why they didn't qualify, like, what are the issues? I'm not a big football person, but I know you support the shittiest team, so let us know.
Wow, as
Maybe
a Chelsea
there's a
fan.
correlation here.
Wow,
Manchester United is the only team that like should exist.
Guys,
So-
context. Let's just stick to this.
Chelsea, the tune to
See, if you start talking about how terrible Manchester United is, we'll not finish today.
But
But let's talk
Black
about
Stars.
a much more terrible team now, which is the Black Stars.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with someone, I think 2 days ago, and they were like, oh, the reason why we haven't won anything in like, I think about 40 years or so, right? So long. It's because the team is cursed, right? I'm saying this for a reason. I'm saying this because Ghanaians have this thing of always trying to blame spirituality for very evident authority failures, right? The Black Stars issue is an authority failure. And I'm going to start with why. Yes.
Also, by the way, today's Asamajan's birthday, so happy birthday, Asamajan, wherever you are. You turned 39 today.
The first man to score in
Happy
9
birthday,
consecutive international tournaments.
fellow alumni.
No
The first.
man to score in 9 consecutive international tournaments. I think the only other person who has done that was Ronaldo. He did it after Jan.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's
4 5
impressive.
years after Jan.
I think Aftamachan is going to love what I'm going to say about the Black Stars.
Yes.
Yeah. So my first problem is that I think there's a leadership failure. The reason why I'm saying this is because let's start from Keto Kweku, who I think has been one of the worst leaders of like the GFA, not because of my opinion, but because of the record that is there.
Right.
Like got kicked out of the AFCON, did not win a game, did not qualify for the AFCON, got kicked out of the World Cup group stage, all these things under you. My problem is that people are complaining now about how Kurt handling the GFA, and yet he won by a landslide. He ran unopposed, right? That's my first issue. Second issue about leadership is that everybody can have a theory about how the leaders can like
Before
just
you go,
pick.
why do you think he ran unopposed? Do you think it's a power issue? People thinking that it's some sort of a seat. So when you go, then after some time, I also come.
But I mean, someone ran against him, and then he got pulled out of the race. And we've all been in student politics, and we know how these things work. So I can't speak on that. But yeah, but my problem is that
My Lord, you and I were not there.
there was a list of coaches that were given, right? We did not pick any of those coaches. We went to pick Otuado again, who had failed initially. One of the coaches on the list, the current Cameroonian coach, has gone unbeaten in every single game he has played. Right? How did the GFL overlook all these really experienced coaches and go for Otuado?
Right.
You see, so I feel like there is a leadership crisis, and that is translating into everything we do. That's the simple problem.
Rob, do you think it's a leadership crisis as well, or you have a different problem?
As an astute gentleman, you didn't think I'll let that go. Anyways, what I meant, I actually think it's not just a leadership problem. I think it's a system problem.
Okay.
The entire system is a problem in the sense that it's not Ghana Football Association. it is Ghana Black Stars Association, and they don't care about whatever happens again.
That's true.
So when you look at that, if you look at teams such as Senegal, Egypt, they have a system where they're able to groom players through the levels, then keep them to the national team, under the idea that we are trying to cultivate the best of our talents and also make sure that they get lots of like skills and lots of like matches to be played. Black Stars, our theory has been the same. We complain, look for foreign talents, bring them together under a bad coach.
Yeah.
And the last time he gave some motivational speeches, I didn't know whether that was even what made it worse for them, and just try and crumble it
I
together.
actually believe that made it worse.
Okay, well,
I can explain
that's the
why
thing.
that made it worse.
Yeah, so then I think it's a system problem from the top all the way to down to the bottom. You can see in recent time, lots of players have complained, from Muntari to ACN. Most of them have always complained that Black Stars have always been like this. But the problem now is that the rest of the world has become very much better, that you can't still be using Inshallah and vibes and think you still make it to AFCON. So the first time in 20 years, we've not made it to AFCON. But the funny thing about it is, for weird reasons, nobody is being sacked. Nobody is having any issues. Back to leadership. The players seem to be... You guys knew you didn't qualify before the last match. You score a goal, then the coach goes to the pitch and goes to have a player for a draw. You guys can watch videos from incidents where when Kudus was about to play his 90th penalty shoot, people in the pitch were shouting away and we're celebrating that to happen. What it means is at this point in time, Rome has fallen and it's visible. If you are not willing to say that you are restarting the entire system, or if from leadership to everything, if you are not willing to do all of that, and the next day you decide to go and commission 2x4 buses and we are back to normal, that's just a problem. So for me, I just think it's a system problem, not just the leaders. Every single thing. It's not GFA, it's Ghana Black Stars Football Association. They should cancel it and let's just have a GFA as a whole.
I was about to ask, before I come to you, Kelvin, I was about to ask, with regards to the system issue, do you think this issue is fundamental across different systems, not even in sports? Do you think it's something that is like the hallmark of all our systems, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education? Because I see a lot of similarities with regards to how things are being run. Let me know what you think before we move on to add on.
This is our 4th episode, and I think one word we can be consistent about is we are horrible. Our system is horrible. Cut across everything. Unaccountability. You get me? Because let's talk about when Kwesi Antechi had the whole corruption issue. The whole Ankara and all those issues that happened back in 2014. We thought after that Anna scandal happened, there will be a whole rejuvenation of the Black Stars. We're thinking people would view it differently or a system would change. But that's always been a problem with our system as a country. When one expose comes out, there is the noise period. There is the it is not true period. Who are you to say that we are not corrupt? But in the midst of the corruption, we're getting results. So therefore, back to default setting without solving the problem. The reason why that's bad is because we never get solutions or we never progress. We easily just patch it up and go on. So when we didn't qualify, now you get lots of people tweeting or talking about it, saying that, oh, they should have brought back Kwesi Antechi because he knew the formula to winning. After all, everybody is doing this, everybody is doing that. And the truth is, all of those things are just patches.
That chat is such a... I'm sorry, but like, that chat is such a horrible chat to have. That someone who was investigated and then we found out with proof that he was corrupt, you're saying, oh, let's bring back the corrupt person because
we were...
Yes.
And that's the system problem. But before Buso comes in, I just think it cuts across. I don't think this question anybody can come in. Even to religious institutions, we can talk about that. National Cathedral, accountability and all of that. We've discussed it over and over again. I think we have a system problem. And it trickles all the way down to universities, SRCs, National Union of Ghana Students, even to SHS and all of that. So it's just a whole system problem across Ghana that we can just say it's there. The system is bad. That's it all.
Kwabna, please come in.
Sure. So I think I want us to still stay on the Black Stars. Yes, it's true. There's a general systemic issue, but the Black Stars particularly. So I think the leadership or authority failure and the systemic failures, they feed each other. The leadership problem gives rise to systemic failures, which then entrench the leadership problem. And I'm going to use an example. Let me just an example, an entire analysis of the system and the personnel involved.
Debate,
show you how it goes round and round.
Yes, so that's the debate.
So now, and before I continue, my thesis statement that nobody should forget when you're done with this podcast is Black Stars is where it is right now in global football because we have too much talent. I'm not saying that is the problem.
Wow.
That is not the problem, but it is feeding something. So the number 12 documentary made us understand that people at the top of GFA are who are basically football agents, like
Yeah.
are using. Oh yes, it's not conjecture.
Yeah.
It's investigated, proven.
Yeah.
So I can say this clear on air.
Okay.
Are using the Black Stars. They are basically pimping out the boys. So yes.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
basically, they use their influence, right, to get the players who are in their talent agencies to get represented at the Black Stars level, so that they can get big moves abroad or to better leagues. Right? Ghana is one of the biggest exporters of talent in world football right now. In every top league in Europe, you find Ghanaian players.
Yeah.
Every second tier league in Europe, you find Ghanaian players. It's not just Ghanaians born in the UK. No, we're talking people who are in SHS at Okes, and then they are flown all the way to Zurich, to Switzerland, to Czechoslovakia, to everywhere. Sorry, you don't call them Czechoslovakia anymore. You are from that place, and I made a mistake.
They
But
cancel
leagues
us
in the
because
Balkans.
they
People are
cancel
playing all the
us.
way in India, in Indonesia.
They've already cancelled Bannerman.
India and Indonesia. Our players are able to go everywhere around the world. Everywhere you check, there's a Ghanaian somewhere who was raised from our streets.
Yeah.
What that means is that there's an incentive for these player agents.
Yeah.
Because the GFA is full of player agents right now.
Yeah.
People are running football agencies. That's what it is. There's an incentive for all of them to bring Kobo, their own players. So that the world sees that, oh, this player exists. He's a Ghanaian. Then he gets a contract from, say, instead of playing in Indonesia, he now gets to play in Switzerland, for example, which is like a bump of 10 times or 15 times his wages. So because of that, the individuals, the authorities that Bannerman refers to, have an incentive to do this thing. But we also know that systemically, if you do this, well, you don't always have the best players. You don't even have a team. Black Stars hasn't built a team. Can you say that when we were kids, you remember that at every point in time, for within every 2-year period, you could tell these are Black Stars players.
Yeah.
These days, same time there's a call up, there's 1 or 2 people yes. But you're always seeing new names.
Yeah.
And it's not like they ever prove themselves right.
No, it's not even. A lot of them don't even get a chance.
I'm sorry. There's a young man. I don't want to mention names, but how on earth was a Swindon Town goalkeeper? Swindon Town, my guys, they play in League 2 in England. How on earth was a Swindon Town goalkeeper, Ghana's Black Stars #1 goalkeeper? I thank God he got that finger injury. Anyways, there's issues on the side. So if there is that incentive now,
Astute gentleman.
if there's that incentive to use Black Stars for that, why is any football authority, right, individual or system, going to pay attention to
grassroots,
under 17 football, under 23 football, which ensures that the football ecosystem is good?
Yeah.
There are other problems that are beyond GFA's the power. For example, well, regardless of all these pimping I've told you about, if you're a slightly good player, you play Kotoko for 6 months, you won't finish the season in Ghana. That's the biggest problem in the Ghana Premier League right now. I think it's one of the shittiest in the world, because as soon as someone shows the slightest bit of talent, you get a contract to Egypt or Kenya.
Fly out.
If not there, to Europe or Asia. Those are the issues. So our league is going to perennially weak. So it's not, the GFA cannot fix that one, we understand. 8th grade teams too, you won't fix them, because there's no incentive to fix that. When you can actually ignore them, when the players become good on their own, because like I said, we have talent abundance over here. You can pimp them out and get fat money. If it were
you see, my problem is, you see, and just to add up on that,
what you do you think Otuado plays a role, has played a role?
Where do you get to that?
Okay.
So that was what I was about to talk about. If we let's just pretend all these things are not true. Like there's no problem, systemic problem, there is no leadership problem, we have everything is set. Now let's take the current Black Stars team as it is, with Otuado as coach. We have one of the best teams in Africa right now. Individually. The top 3 dribblers in the Premier League are all Ghanaian players. Kudus, what's the name of the Leicester boy? Isaaku and Semenyo.
Leicester man.
By volume, by efficiency, they are the best dribblers.
Semenyo is scoring.
Semenyo is scoring goals when less. And
Inaki is scoring.
You know one thing.
And Niyama is doing things.
You know one thing I realized after the last international break that Ghana came to disgrace themselves. Right after that weekend,
everybody was
almost
scoring
every single Ghanaian player scored or assisted.
So that's the thing. So why is it that when they come here, there's the inability for them to be able to show?
One, the coaching issue I talked about. Otuado is a good coach, but Otuado is not up like Ghana isn't
he's not a
the
good coach.
team.
Doesn't think he's a good
Actually,
He doesn't know if you think he's a
You
good
don't
coach.
think
I don't think
I think
he's a good
it's an okay coach, but I just think that he doesn't deserve Ghana at this point in his career. Ghana is too big.
doesn't
That means he's not a good coach.
Yes, that is it. So guys,
Ghana
that's
is
why
too big for
Otuado
him.
is not a good coach.
Sure,
Simple and
sure.
short. To call someone a good coach, they must have won matches. This person was never a coach until he coached Black Stars. Black Stars was his first coaching job. He was a scout at Dortmund.
Yeah, sure.
In the
And that
first
is
interview,
fine.
He said it's 12 years.
12 years as a scout at Dortmund.
Not
So
a
he's an
coach.
amazing scout, clearly, because Dortmund are great at finding talent. So he was
Yeah,
there for
yeah,
12
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Let me say that Dembele moves or he was part. So he's an amazing
So you
scout.
don't think that
But
should
I don't think
replicate in finding
I'm
talent?
coming. Yeah, I don't finding. I'll get to that. I don't think not having coaching experience means you'll be a bad coach. After all, we've seen Arteta. However, when you are picked from somewhere without experience, you have to impress on the
Yes,
job
yes.
at once because it's a high stakes job. The Blacks national team jobs are not for are not training wheels.
Yeah.
Right? They are the pinnacle. They are just before the topmost leagues. You understand club football is the biggest, but just for the topmost leagues, they have national team football, especially for a country that has prided itself on being a football nation. Even during our 30-year, 40-year drought, we were still reaching finals and semi-finals.
Yeah.
We've always been a good footballing nation.
Yeah.
So if you are someone like that and you come in without experience, you should show on the why actually
Yeah,
gambling on you
deserve
was a
it.
good idea.
Exactly.
He was given the chance. It's not like he was never given the chance. You saw what happened at the World Cup.
AFCON.
Oh my goodness.
Was it AFCON or the World
It
Cup?
started
That we
at the
crashed
World
out.
Cup.
Yeah. That,
Then AFCON was so disgraceful. That's when everyone you could see
Comoros,
that.
bro.
Because see again,
Comoros,
back
yeah,
Comoros.
that was
like
bad.
despite all the systemic issues, there are ways of papering over cracks. One thing that can always paper over cracks in a talent-based sports is the actual talent. So if you have the talent, right, the next thing you need because it's a team-based sport is a talented coach.
Beautiful.
Ghana does not have a history of talented managers.
Okay, cool.
At least that's what we thought until Kwesi Appiah is doing wonders with Sudan. So clearly, there's a good Ghanaian coach somewhere. Yes, Kwesi Appiah is doing wonders.
Yes.
I don't know if you are aware.
Yes,
he's
Sudan
doing wonders
has
because
been
Sudan is a shitty team, like player for player. It's not a great team, but he's doing
Anybody
wonders
who
with
is
them.
from Sudan listening, we are very sorry.
No, I mean Ghana is not great at basketball. Yes, it is what it is. We're also not great at rugby. Sudan is actually amazing at basketball. They did wonders at the
but
Olympics.
let's be fair. Like when it comes to football, I don't think Sudan is anything close to
they were
Ghana
never
when
that
it comes
good.
to history.
But
and
most
that.
of them are
But-
shitty team. They are
Can you list 5 Sudanese players at top level in history? Not now.
I feel like I was
Can you
about to
list
say
five
something
Ghanaians
to
looking
come off
at
as wildly racist. So let's move on.
That's fine. That's fine. No, every country and what they are good at.
Yeah.
And sports, when it comes to sports, Ghana's always been great at boxing and football. Boxing, we'll have that conversation another day, and I'll be so happy to have that conversation. But we are talking about
We'll invite you, don't worry.
a way of preparing the cracks, like I said, is talent.
Yeah.
So when you have very talented players, get an elite coach.
Exactly.
Pay them money.
That's what I
And
was
you know
saying.
what made the Otuado situation absurd? They put out a CV, job
A list.
description. No, before the list, before people applied, they said they wanted experience.
Yeah.
I remember they said they wanted experience, like proven track record. Because if you have experience and proven track record, you can use these players to do things, if not win. We'll see clear progress. Today,
So how
we are
do we
one
get
of
there?
only 5. Oh, I'll get to that. So today we are one of only 5 teams that failed to win a single game during the qualifiers.
Jesus Christ.
If you see the list of those countries, those are countries that do not have functioning football leagues. Madagascar and France.
Hey, Charlie, man, that's gonna do it.
No, like I said, some countries are not footballing countries. They are better at other sports. Just the same way we are not a good rugby country
Yeah.
or great iron country. That is what it is. So that's the thing. We are now listed among countries that generally do not do well in football.
This is really terrible.
And
for
funny,
us.
Yeah, pound for pound,
funny-
we are
funny-
the best
funny
players.
thing is that it's not more local disgrace. So BBC,
yes.
like people
Because
are
everyone was shocked.
Everybody's like, and now the thing where you cover crimes in the house and like, oh, it's nothing, it's just corruption. Everybody's corrupt.
And then you go
Oh, it's just
outside and
back
win.
then. And everybody's
So-
now saying it all
So,
right.
Ralph, on that issue, what role do you think the media plays in alleviating
So
this
let's
pressure
have a
on
discussion
management
about
teams?
And Zoe, just to add to that, in answering that question, you should keep in mind how the media interacted with Otuado after the last game. I don't know if you've seen the
Yeah,
video.
I saw that. I find that unprofessional. I feel
Very
like I felt it was out of place for
We
you
are
to.
not fans. We are not
You are
your
not fan. You are a journalist. You can't be going there to
professional.
shout and use all your emotions and say.
He told him you are not. It's not a good
and
coach.
You made him to go out of.
He literally
I also
told
think
Otuado he was not
Otuado is
good.
not media trained to a point because the kind of responses he gave,
Yeah.
he could have just walked out on them. That was a big. Most coaches, if you're not Mourinho, but Mourinho has even won a lot. But you can't. The back and forth was horrible. But let's talk about the media's interaction. So it's weird. That's because they played the biggest hits. When the elections were coming, we saw how media men were actively against what was happening. Then some people too did a counter demo saying we want him to stay.
Yeah.
Then after that whole song finished,
There was a counter demo.
oh, there was a counter demo.
When has there been a counter
But there's
demo?
always a
Any
counter
sort in
demo.
Ghana?
No, that was a counter demo. Then after the counter demo happened, the issue died out. Now there were media men that were always on the neck of Otoado saying, no, we don't like this, we don't like the GFA. They say it every day.
Yeah.
But what has happened right now is that they've said it so much that it's no longer having any effect with time, and they were just done with the conversation. Then we lose. Obviously, the Monday again, there is blasting, then it goes off again. So now it seems like it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
And I think now, I feel like Otoado is used to it. What is the best you can say that I've not heard from you before? You said I was horrible. I have
What's
won.
the worst thing that
What's the
you
worst
can
you can do? They lose on Monday, Tuesday. He doesn't even. He just would organize a conference to discuss the way forward.
Ralph.
No sacking happens.
Ralph.
Up next, give us a second-hand ball.
Like
pass.
before that, just 10 less than a minute. So I think all Ghanaian coaches in the past like 5 to 10 years have complained about is how they don't have a choice in selection. And I feel like that's such a major trump card for Otoado. No matter what you say, he can always say, I didn't have a choice in selection. And it is true. Like I said, it's the authorities who are actually selecting their players.
When we say authorities, can we be clear about it? Because authority sounds very vague. Like, who are the authorities and who are calling the shots if the coach can't call the shots?
So basically, like almost every education, every association is a structure. At the base, there are authorities. Each level that you go, there are people in charge of different things, all the way up to the president, vice president, ex-co.
So who are the authorities?
Who are the authorities?
Like I said, the one we know that you can mention, that stress, Kurt, because I mean he's a player, listing agent, and all of that.
Player
By the way,
agent and also
he
owns
does,
teams.
yes, and
in all
owns
the league.
teams in the league.
You see,
thing
that's
is so
my thing.
weird,
My
man.
problem is I have a problem with this thing of like when Ghanaians see that the coach says that, oh, he doesn't really have so much control. He makes the calls and all that. You can't give me that excuse because to me you are as complicit as the one calling the shots. If you know that someone is calling the shot for you and someone is telling you to bring in certain players and to bench certain players, then resign.
Hey.
But you see, we've never seen an African
The money
leader
is
resign
good.
before.
No.
The reason
An
why
African
Exactly.
leader resign, they don't
So
resign.
that feeds into the system.
Exactly. So my problem is that
That's
you can't allow not just Otoado but
Right.
coaches in Ghana in general to keep getting away with the I'm not the one who calls the shot. People interfere. Resign, bro. Like go back to your job. Go to another job.
Bannerman,
Yes.
so when they resign, they choose another person who is their
Same
partner.
situation.
What happened?
So that person also you realize that like you still are not getting to call your shots. You also
So
what?
it's a cycle of people
Resign.
resigning till there's
It's
change
exactly.
in the system.
That's my own. I know.
It's a
For
long
us,
shot,
I know for us,
but-
what we can say is that nobody will really resign because like who
The money is
resign?
good.
But you see, if that's the case, then we will blame you as part of the problem.
Yes, because you're enjoying the
Yes, because you could have resigned, but you chose
Yeah.
not to resign. So I think my final words on the Black Stars is that we know what the problems are. The problems are it's a leadership problem. So in the next election, because I don't think there's anything. Kurt Okweku, the GFA president, has dissolved the what's it called? The board or whatever.
communities.
Yes, but the thing is, people think you are the problem. So it's like, what does that solve?
Doesn't solve anything.
Otoado has not been fired. Anybody who does this to a top team like Ghana is as a coach would have either resigned by now or would have been fired on that same day.
Or,
There's no-
you should
regardless
have been
of the
sacked.
challenge,
You see,
one win, zero wins.
Once
Yes.
you knew we're not qualifying before that last match, you just sack him
Yes.
and let them play without
Yes.
the coach and let us know that we are like we don't have anything. But still,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because a lot of
On
player
that.
managers exist.
true. But on that, none of you mentioned commitment of players because you see players withdraw from time to time. You don't think there's an issue with commitment?
I don't think so
that?
at all.
Eh.
And the reason why I want to say this is that
So
you
then
see,
add the cause for the withdrawal.
yeah. So my own is this. Like, you see, when you are doing victim blaming, right? It's a very thin line where sometimes maybe Boso might be complicit for something, but Ralph may have the lion's share of the blame.
Okay.
The moment we start blaming Boso little by little, it becomes easier for us to ignore Ralph, who is the bigger problem, and start blaming Boso more.
Okay.
The players may have commitment issues, but
I doubt it.
yeah, I also doubt
But
it.
you really think
But
that's just a little fraction of
yes,
the main problem?
Kudus has actually been balling, but Kudus needs a coach to tell him that, bro, release the ball. You're not the only player.
or Kudus.
Or
You were
hold the
or
ball.
Kudus
Because those are
because
both
of what you did in the
different
first
tactics.
65 minutes.
But-
second half you're on bench.
Yes,
it's
but-
a coach decision, not a player.
Exactly. So
Kudus,
regardless
when you
of
play
what-
first half and you were messing around, Otuado can say Kudus sit down.
Yes. So
Somebody
regardless
was
of
coming.
whether
so the players they are puppets in the whole game.
Exactly.
You can't tell me there's a player bigger than the Black Stars
Exactly.
now.
No.
Probably you could argue that before when Asamoah was there, it would be like
Yeah.
you cannot remove Asamoah because he's
Even
untouchable
Andrea Ayew.
or Andrea Ayew.
Yeah,
But
but
now,
right now, everyone
everybody
is-
Jordan sits on bench comfortably.
Yes.
Everybody, nobody is so unique that you
Yeah.
can't say you can't do without them.
Yeah.
So I just feel like players are not like let's just put the players at one side and let's focus on the
And at
problems.
least up until now, it has always been the dream of every young player in this country to one day wear the Ghana shirt.
Exactly.
Like remember, they are all boys who they are young boys, 20 until these days the football age is free.
Yeah,
Everybody's
like
so
Asamoah
if indeed they have lost commitment. I'd say, like I said, I use the word lost. It means they started with a commitment. Something must have happened.
Yeah.
The way the system, the team is set up for them to lose it. Because every kid who is mentioning names of Black Stars players, he wants to be like every kid right now is saying he wants to be Kudus.
Yeah.
In 10 years, those like 11-year-olds would be 21 and they would want to represent Black Stars.
Yeah.
So it's not the players. We should never blame them.
Yeah.
Ever.
So how do we return to continental dominance?
How do you return to continental dominance? A purge, a full-scale purge.
Raphael, what do you think?
what he said, and we just honestly, that's the thing about no offense, but no matter the suggestion we give them, it's our opinion.
Yeah.
All I just think is they need a new coach,
Yeah.
a new coach, a new FA president, FA, not Black Stars president.
Yeah.
Once that happens, things might be better. But it will take a while because Morocco had structures. They literally, and that's the funny thing. You could see it happening. They were building stadium. Everybody is improving. But for Ghana, it had to take CAF to tell us that Kumasi Stadium is not playable before they did Accra Sports Stadium. Like we need to be pushed and nudged before some things would happen. So, just as he said, a full-scale purge needs to be done, but the replacement for the purge has to be better. It shouldn't be let it go and another set of copy and paste will still come back again. And we need a GFA president, not a Black Stars president.
To add up to this, I've been shouting, and this is something I've been saying since the beginning of this Ghana this week. Accountability.
It's a systematic issue.
Bro, we get so much money from going to World Cup, from going to AFCON, from whatever.
Yeah.
Those monies are not being used well, and nobody's being held accountable for those things. There's a terrible maintenance culture that stems from a lack of accountability. You built stadiums. Those stadiums were built for, like, I think AFCON, 2008. There's no maintenance, yet there are monies being paid for the maintenance of these things. You see, we think it's not a big deal. And I think that's another problem in Ghana with your question on the media. The media doesn't paint the picture of how terrible these things are. So, for instance, a country like Ghana, right, doesn't have a single pitch that is certified by CAF. That is a big insult to Ghana as a country. But the media would rather project other things than project this. I think they do talk about it. I just don't think they make it as dire as it's supposed to sound. But I think an additional reason is that we just don't hold the football associations accountable.
Okay.
We need to start doing that. And if we start doing that, I think better results will come.
Here is the problem.
Before we move to the next topic, also, we can't end this conversation without talking about the buses. It's not funny.
I'm sorry, it is.
It's not funny.
Actually, I'm not even laughing. I don't even know why.
It is,
You're
it
astute
is.
gentlemen. But go on.
Yeah, Mr. And I'll tell you why I'm Mr.
It's not funny. No, like this. No, it's not funny. This level. Do you see the insides of the bus?
yes.
This
Yes.
is absurd.
Yes.
This is absurd. Like,
Zoe,
how did we get here?
do you know how we
To a
got
point-
here? Do you know why? Do you know how we got here? And do you know why it's funny? The heads of these teams, the heads of all those whatever, were the ones who voted on a landslide for Keto Kriku. They deserve everything they are getting.
No, I
More.
That's it.
No, true, right? There's an issue with Kent. Very true. But with these buses, right? Like, what would they have taken out of the budgets
No offense.
allocated to them
No offense,
for them
no,
to be able
but
to
I'm
get?
about to do devil's advocacy. I feel
Before
like
devil's
Advocate.
advocacy, then before your devil's
Yeah, then go on,
advocacy,
then
just
finish.
quick one. So apparently, what's we are hearing reports from credible like sports
Sources.
journalists, credible
Okay.
sports journalists. I think I've forgotten the name, so I'll mention the wrong name. They ordered different buses. Very, very good buses, actually.
Here comes the
They're supposed to be brand new, right? They couldn't clear it. Remember early in this conversation?
Charlie.
I'm serious. I'm serious.
If you don't bring something out in front.
Listen.
Let's go.
You remember earlier in this conversation, we talked about general systemic issues in the country. This was one of those things. Those general systemic issues prevented them from telling the details. It's quite easy, so I'll mention things. But so because of that, last minute, they procured some private contractor in Ghana here to try and see if we can get these ones fast for them. Why? Because elections are coming up. And somebody needs to carry favor from the teams to vote for him again. And for these teams, we are vexed and all that, how the buses are looking. But prior to these buses, they had nothing. They will take. They will vote.
Zoe.
You see, and that's the
Zoe.
thing.
I feel like, so first of all, so let me just put that out there that we don't know whether some of these things are fully true, that this is the reason why this is happening, this is the reason why this is happening. But what I would say is that our actions have consequences, right? You can't bemoan the terrible state of the association and then choose someone who ends up doing these things, right? And maybe it wasn't him. I don't know the full story. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe there was a problem with when they were shipping, there was a problem and a mix-up. I don't know any of those things. My own is that accountability, right? You should know the consequences of your actions and use that to decide what to do next when you are voting for your leaders. That's all.
The boys have finished their conversation. All I have to just, I don't have anything to say about it.
I know what we are coming to say, that he didn't have to buy the buses for them.
Well, I was about to say that they didn't have a bus.
Exactly.
Even them bus. I don't know whether people know the state of Division 1 teams in Ghana and the pitches they play on. And sometimes they take trotro and things to go to places to go and play ball. So if Ket has been able to secure a second-hand
this
bus,
is not second. It doesn't qualify as a second-hand bus.
A moving vehicle for you.
The buses were nice.
They would have been in sprinters.
The buses
but my point is, I think the guys have exhausted the conversation on that. System is bad, leaders are bad. Until there is a change, and where that change means that the new people coming would do better. I think we'll just be fine. Ghana football is just
last thing before I think everyone needs to remember that the GFA is a private association. That is so important for any solution you want to prefer for the Black Stars. It's a private association. There are CAF rules that prevent the state from getting involved. The state is allowed to sponsor, but they cannot ask GFA to be accountable, because as soon as that happens, these people will simply go and cry to CAF, and then CAF will say government interference in sports, and then there will be a long-term ban. And so they've used that trump card. So any solution you want to think of, just remember that this thing exists.
The state cannot even ask for accountability because they don't have it anyway. So, that's a different conversation. But whilst we are on the conversation of deplorable buses, let's talk about how we got expired rice in secondary schools. How did that happen?
First, let me take that seriously. Let me take that conversation seriously. I firstly think the posture of the public towards it is not as expected. I don't know whether it's because either mainstream media is failing to project that conversation, or because it's election season, lots of conversations are happening. So it's easy for you to just shove that conversation under the carpet. That's because when you realize that it is the life of students that are supposed to be the pride of this administration, free SHS.
Thank you. I was just about to say.
You should realize that this conversation is supposed to cause national uproar. I don't care whether it's a partisan conversation. It's the fact that it's a health risk. And my problem is everybody's posture after this has come out. All of a sudden, people are blame shifting. People are trying to play the political card around it. But nobody has come out conclusively to say that this is the problem. This is who is going to be punished for it. That's to show you how much they value. You say what?
Lamens has been fined.
But is that what it
for regulatory breaches?
You know why? We'll get into the reason why that is bull is because I don't think people try to look at the level of hazard or disaster this could have caused the nation. Because imagine if over 1,000 of students
starts to die or
But Nana Akomia said the children are going to university now and nothing has happened to
they were not
what, so
eating
does
rice.
this mean that they've been eating that kind of rice for a long time? Because
So,
what does that comment
I think we need
mean?
to get
And
into it.
Let's
So,
get into the facts.
let's get into the
I
facts.
think
Go to
all
the
we are doing
analysis.
is speculation, but my problem is just again, mainstream media has failed to make this conversation, which is a very important national conversation, they fail to project it to its very core. Hence, there's no sense of urgency around people to ask for accountability to even what is true or what isn't true. So for me, I just feel like the way you said it and the response we are getting from the general public are two different things.
So on that, so first of all, we need to just to put that out there. This issue is still under investigation. So what we are sharing are our opinions on the current conversation. But what we know to be true in terms of the facts is that, first of all, and let me just add up to Ralph's thing before we go on. The reason why, as Ralph truly states, why this is not being projected by the media probably is that it seems, because it comes from Okujeto Ablakwa, an NDC MP, during a few days to an election, it seems like it's an NDC smear campaign to paint the administration bad. And that is the reason why people are immediately taking sides. I feel like if it wasn't an election year, of course, they will still take sides anyways. But the way in which people immediately jump to either discredit it, try not to say it's not true, it wouldn't have happened in that way. But let's talk about the facts. The facts is that, so Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa says that there have been issues of a certain company, of rebagging of rice, right? And when you are rebagging rice, it means that things like the expiry date, the manufacturing dates, and all those things are either not there or are incorrect. Another thing is that the rice came from India by a company called Lamens, right? And it had made in Ghana written on it after the rebagging. Obviously, that's fraud because it was not made in Ghana, it came from India. Now, after all that happened, what the conversation became that the FDA basically were tipped off to do an investigation on these things. Now, what we are hearing is that the FDA has fined Lamens, not because of the distribution of poisoned rice or expired rice. They fined them for regulatory breaches, which is basically that they rebagged rice without the asking FDA's approval. They did it without supervision of the FDA. They distributed the rice without supervision and all those things. It means that, and this to me, it sounds like you are trying to say that you are not punishing them or fining them for distributing expired rice, but simply because they rebagged rice. But question is, you see, that is when it makes, to me, it sounds more plausible when people say, yes, you have given out expired rice. Why are they rebagging the rice? Why do they want the extension of the expiry? Because they actually applied to get an extension of the expiry date.
And why is it now made in Ghana?
Exactly. So even if it is not true, yes, even if it is not true that they've not given expired rice to senior high school students and all those things, it looks incredibly sketchy. And this is the health of students. So you can't just sit aside and say, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not really, it's just regulatory breaches. Those regulatory breaches were very serious and posed serious health risks. So for me, I just feel like it's still being investigated. We don't know the extent of which this is true or this is not true. But by the mere facts, for someone sitting outside looking into it, it looks incredibly sketchy. And that's what I'll say about it.
So, I think on the FDA side, the reason why they do the fine for those simple regulatory breaches is just going for low-hanging fruit, because it's easy to prove that someone rebagged rice. It's easy to prove that rice that came from India was now, labeled made in Ghana. Those extra small regulatory breaches are easy to prove. You can easily find evidence of those. But as soon as you say someone's company has done something life-threatening, you raise a high burden of proof on yourself, because they can sue you for defamation and all of that.
Sorry, just to add up to what you are saying, because it helps you what you are saying. Lamens was involved in the 2021 auditor reports of doing similar things already. So it's not like this is the first time they are doing something similar to this.
Yes, but you see again, I think this is the first part I'll mention on this podcast. I'm a law person. Now, I feel whoever is in the like legal affairs offices of the FD just told them that just be safe. Number one, of course, there's eye on this thing. There's public eye. You need to do something. But at the same time, you have to stay cool. If you overdo it, these people will sue you back. And see, there is no government entity here that can actually go toe to toe with rich private law firms. Forget it. In this country, it won't happen. They will it won't happen. I just don't want to go into that. But ask any lawyer you know, it won't go anywhere. Yes, you can't sue big private entities like Lamens as a government this thing. So probably their legal affairs just told them, let's keep it simple. The one that we can easily deal with, that Lamens will probably be ready to accept that this is the issue and pay a fine for it. And they probably do that. It makes it easier for all parties.
Putting on the
because
legal
they have to
thing.
do something now.
Putting on the legal thing. When you have people who already don't trust the government, right?
Yeah.
Who already have so many questions about the government. When you come and say, oh, we are even doing this because it's an easier thing to do to get some kind of money to help, yeah, nobody's buying that.
Yes,
nobody's buying that.
Better than if they did nothing at all.
We don't care, Charlie.
We have over almost 500,000 students' life at stake. This is the kind of conversation we should be having.
Yeah.
Like, does this mean there's an issue with the supply chain for free SHS? And what is the alternative?
Okay, so this is where the politicization thing comes in. So for the past 8 years, or is it 7 years of the running of free SHS, the NDC opposition has from time to time brought it up that their general this thing has been free SHS is not being run well.
Yeah.
And one of the two main things have been attacked. Number one, the double track system, all the provinces has. And then number two, the feeding of the students.
Yeah.
So it has every
Before you
6,
continue.
8, 10 months, it comes into the new cycle. Yeah.
Before you continue, how much is for each student? Last I heard it was a CD and something. How much is it now?
I've forgotten the exact.
Not sure.
That is some small figure. It's an only.
Do you think that contributes to the quality of the meals being given to them?
Yeah,
And
so-
why they would need to
Significant.
rebag expired
So I think, I don't know whether it was the FDA report or the auditor report, but the report was that the fact that there was expired rice or rice that was unwholesome or rice that we had questionable sources, like the fact that was there, their fear was that it could be fed to the students in times of scarcity. That was one of the things that was being said either by FDA or by the auditor report.
Yeah.
So it means that, per what you are saying, in a situation where the food isn't coming, there is a problem with supply. They are not getting, and right now because of free SHS, the senior high schools don't really have money
exactly
to cater for
because
themselves.
school fees are not being paid.
Exactly. So they depend fully on the government.
Exactly.
In that case, it sounds like it's very possible or it's very plausible to say that those kinds of foods may be fed to students. And that's a very scary thought to have.
Yes, because it's a CD and 50 pesos.
No, it's
Per
a CD and
each
50
student.
pesos.
A CD and
Wow.
50 pesos. Yes.
Per meal or per day? I'm coming. I'm coming. Serious question. Per meal or per day?
I'll compare.
Because I mean, it's not like either of them is good, but one is significantly worse.
Yeah.
It's per student for a term.
What?
Per meal, probably.
I think at this point, let's just put a nip in the bud.
It's bad, yeah.
The food is bad. The way they are dealing with it is
Yeah,
bad.
I mean, I have a brother in high
those,
school. The food
those
is not good.
details, for me, the more you think about it, the more you get pissed off. Let's just focus on. We hope something is done about it, and it doesn't
Nothing
become
will
one of
be
those
done about it.
political.
Nothing will be done about it.
Well, it doesn't become one of those political things. You just
I'm entering my nihilism fees like that.
So this is the reason why, Bannerman, before you come in, this is the reason why it's a big issue, Ralph. Because you have certain headmasters during the scarcity of food. I hope you guys remember a few months down the line. He said, okay, let's have a meeting with the parents and everybody contributes a certain quota so that we can take care of your kids, because clearly government is unable to do so. He was made to step down for over 3 months, right? And then they had to sit, literally made a whole committee, had to sit before they brought him back to be headmaster for the said school.
Yeah.
Like, this is the issue. You have headmasters carrying and trying to do something about it, and government clams down on it.
Well,
But at the
there's a
same time,
reason for
too,
that.
doesn't elevate like the
So,
kind of
again,
quality for the food.
it's all about standardization. The truth is the headmasters in the past or SHS authorities didn't help themselves. So in the past, you find people, when SHS were allowed to charge all sorts of additional levies, charging the most absurd things, and then the school would make use of them for their own. You know how again we have a systemic problem in this country. So to curb that, the GES brings in standardization. Also, again, policy. If your flagship policy is free SHS, and now your people's kids are in school, and the schools are asking them to pay extra, it also doesn't look good. So it's two things. Number one, on the political level, it doesn't look good if the schools are raising money. But number two, the schools too in the past haven't helped themselves because they would levy all sorts of crazy levies. Because I remember when I was in school when SHS has started becoming progressively free, and we were supposed to be paying like 100 and something cedis per term, which was like it's insanely good. You will still go to PTA, house PTA, and they will ask you to pay for this or that.
We still pay so much.
And parents will actually complain about it. That they may back so and so grade A school, and I'm supposed to pay 100 cedis, but I ended the term paying 1,200 cedis and things like that. So the political angle of it, and the schools not helping themselves, and so now the state decided to just standardize. But why do you ask? It's like the whole capitalism versus socialism argument. It's like if states could take care of everything, like it will be nice.
Exactly.
But they can't.
Exactly.
But if you leave capitalists to, they will show you why you shouldn't have left them in the first place. So where do you go?
Exactly.
Wow, come in.
Well, my conclusive thought on this conversation again is that I think we've discussed it, and even on the last episode, that this government doesn't have the capacity to run free SHS based on what we are seeing.
Exactly why the road conversation from the last episode was such a big issue to me. Let's continue.
But when I say the capacity, it's not coming from a bad point of view.
Yeah.
It's from the point of view of, I just think that as a government, looking at the kind of burdens that we have and all of the things that are happening within the country, it's high time we stop going on the chart of the cart of free things. Yeah. It's time we start sitting people down and let them understand that these are the kind of risk that are involved. We discussed the 3-grade system as to when we are able to get a data system. Grade A people should pay, if that's your earning, like grade B people should pay a certain amount, C people shouldn't, to let the system regulate. The problem is nobody is going to admit this because it's political season. Would prefer to go to IMF to take more money. When we take the money, they will now feed it into the free SHS or increase taxes, and instead of us to use the money for other things, we put it in free SHS. My point is free SHS is good. Let's not lie about it. But whether government has the capacity to run it to the point where it doesn't become a harm on us as citizens, because I don't think any parent will tell you that they'll prefer their children eating poisonous foods ahead of them paying. I don't think any rational parents will weigh that. But anybody who is going to respond to me and say it's just one of those out of the blue conversations because this is not something that happens all the time. You can't use one case of food poisoning to justify why it's a bad scheme. Let's be honest, there's been lots of other reports about it. I just think it's an issue of personal principle and what I think of it. Free SHS is good, but it's time government is able to bring a system where they are able to get enough funds without we as a country suffering for it. I think we'll be fine. For the rest of them, I agree with how Boso and Bannerman has said it. It's just a bad thing we are in.
We are talking about social implementations not working because government can't do everything. We are looking at the two major parties, and almost every conversation, like almost every what's the word?
Policy.
Almost every policy is a social one. So we are doomed.
Once again, as we discussed in the last episode, she wasn't here. That's why. Anyways, astute gentlemen. I'll forgive you for that. We discussed it last week, and I think Andrew's made it clear that all of a sudden the free thing is the golden key to elections.
And I think in the 2 episodes we spoke about how it's like a blueprint.
Yeah, but now it's a golden key because now everybody wants to give the free idea. Like it's free. My argument again is I don't think anybody wants to take the bold step to tell them, let us be honest. The risk of the free thing at some point in time is one that outweighs the benefit. Let's be fair. If government is giving you free NHIS already to some point, government is doing free SHS. Mahama now says he wants to add private SHS to free scheme. Mahama says he's going to give free university for first-year students. The same person to opposition says they are going to give people with disability free university course. Like there's a trend, free. The question is, who is going to pay? Where are you going to generate the money from? Then nobody.
And just so to add to that, as they are giving the free, both of them have promised to remove e-levy and bet tax. By the way, so as you are promising free things, you're also removing a revenue stream.
So I think
I love the miracles at Ghana.
Nobody is willing to tell us the truth.
Yeah.
If you all say you would cancel e-levy, You will cancel bet on tax. You will cancel all of the things generating revenue for you. Explain to us, and everybody says they will do economic magic to make sure we don't go to IMF again or look bad. Where are you going to get money to sponsor all these free things, knowing fully well that we don't have enough industries? We've not been able to produce enough within the country. We are still an import-driven country. Where are we going to get enough to deal with all these free policies coming? And the reason why I'm not saying anything about it is because nobody is giving a different opinion. MPP has been clear about where they would go on with their line. NDC too is on the same line with them. And the 24-hour economy, I had a very good conversation with
I saw that
you guys
conversation.
On the issue on Twitter. I get where they are coming from, but as to whether people would be able to agree on it or how realistic it will look like for companies to take the conversation that they are having is a whole different thing. So once again, let us just watch how things unfold.
We might not be able to watch how things unfold because we'll be in Dumsor.
So
let's talk about that. We may not be able to see that. Yeah, we literally have 3 power plants saying that they're going to shut down. Asogli is already not running. So let's talk about it. Is Dumsor finally back? We need to be able to accept it now. If not as a country on this podcast, we need to be able to accept it. Is Dumsor finally back?
As someone who got light out, I had light outs 3 times over the past week.
I have the timetable in my room, to be fair.
Honestly,
you know what I'm going to say? Dumsor is not back. Like okay, if we say there's a power crisis,
and talk about the energy debt crisis that we have, because clearly
energy crisis, then it is back. If we say Dumsor to refer to that specific period we call Dumsor. So I met my ex today, married now. The last time she was in this country was when Dumsor was properly Dumsor.
I hope you don't get into a relationship issues.
I know, right?
But
I told Madam before I went to school. I didn't know where I was going. Yeah, she knows wherever I go.
Those with Madam. Anyways.
So yeah.
Astute gentlemen.
So I think sometimes it's good for people who have been out when it comes to measuring these things. She remembers where she was staying, the same place she's staying now. How during that period, like she was almost never like with light. You understand? She needed to almost always rely on private power. And now that she's back in Ghana, she has heard that there is Dumsor, all right. But it's not what she remembers.
Yeah.
She doesn't sleep in darkness 5 times a week.
You see,
when her light goes off, 6, 7, 8 hours, it's back. In that same place she was living. Those days it was 12 hours. So is there a power crisis? Yes. Is it because we've expanded, our energy needs are increasing and all of that. So if you want to say again, it's all potato kind of stuff. There is an energy crisis, but it is not what people remember, and that is why people will not pin it on this government. People remember a very horrible situation.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I can see Bannerman's hand up. I can see Raul's post.
Because I have a lot to say on this.
Before we even go back, why have we failed to elevate ourselves from the energy debt crisis that we have? Because now the issue is not that we do not have the capacity to generate, because you even have VRA telling you that they can generate for the capacity that is required. Yeah. Why do we have an energy debt crisis?
So I think the problem is
the way Zoe is asking him like, so minister of energy.
I know, right? I know, right? So guys, I don't have superior technical
knowledge,
bro. I don't have superior technical knowledge on the energy. Yes, I'm actually just a chill guy, So But my problem is this. You see, when we were having earlier this year, we had so many light outs which were happening so much that the country even demanded a timetable. Like, bro, just give us a timetable. They were not honest with us. They told us that it was, what did they even call it?
Dumsor.
They call it something.
Yes, the Dumsor.
They called it something. I've forgotten what it was called. But
the term.
I've forgotten the term. But the point is, they were not being honest with us, right?
Maintenance.
The issue, maintenance. They called it maintenance. But the lights were going out almost every 3 days. Yeah. But let's set all that aside. I think the problem with the question you asked was that there is going to, it looks like it's likely going to get far worse if we don't handle the debts we have now. And whoever wins the power, whether it is Baumia, whether it is Mahama, whether it's Alan or Cheddar, you have to include them. It could be them, right? You never know. So whoever wins, right, I feel like they are likely going to inherit a very terrible energy sector. And this is scary because let's say Mahama wins. Let's just say Mahama wins. And then we have energy crisis. Do you know what that would mean for him? I feel like they might remove him from power like right there and then. Because it will literally be, they keep saying you are the Dumsor guy. Right? They keep saying you are the Dumsor guy. Then like, your first 6 months as president, you have one of the worst power crises we ever had. Since the worst one you gave us. Right?
His legacy is going to be a Dumsor legacy.
Basically. So I just feel like we are not, I feel like they're not taking these things seriously because, and that's, you see, it's easier for people to bring up conjectures and like conspiracy theories that you are making it terrible because you think you might not win. I don't think that's true. I just think that they are really not managing the sector as it's supposed to. And that's just...
What sector in this country are they
A
managing?
little context, Ralph, before you continue.
Engineer.
This debt looks like this. We owe ECG. VRA is not producing as much as they usually would. The thermal plants are not really running as much because there are a lot of losses, because it takes a lot to run them. Then we have Asogli, shut down. We have 3 other private, independent generating companies saying that they're also going to shut down because of debt. Let me know what you think. Wow.
Well, if I tell you what I think today, what would I tell you tomorrow? well.
Wow.
You think something new tomorrow.
No.
Wow.
I'm honestly a very good reference. It's a very good reference. Oh, to you will get a joke. I'm sorry, guys.
Somebody tell me, say, he will tell me what she gets do, what she go do tomorrow.
Exactly. The thing is,
Well, yeah.
I feel like everybody should get their power banks ready. Because the price of power banks has doubled up in the past 1 week. How do I know? I bought some recently for my mom, and the prices are going up. People should embrace themselves. Either it's MPP or NDC that wins. We are about to have a very interesting period, which we hope we don't have. Reason I'm saying this is you have debt. And you see this thing, I'm going to put it back again.
Ralph is dead.
Debt. Thank you very much.
Sometimes we interchange is perfect.
No. Siri, thanks for that. Debt. Then you say you are still going to promise more free things. And that's why I'm going back. See, no matter what you're telling me, I'm still going back to the free things. Would they cut? Why would they cut?
I can't afford it.
You're not even eating.
Remember that video? This government.
And my fear is nobody's taking it seriously.
I come for you when you talk about boys go
And the thing is, nobody's
Who remembers
taking
Soko Boys go back?
I remember.
Nobody's taking it serious. And my fear is nobody has told Ghanaians reality. It's just that they're making it sound like, you see the way you made it sound all, hey, it's doomsday. On radio, it sounds like one of those, because we hear so many issues already. So this is one of those issues. My fear again is that on the thread we are going, when we get there, anybody in power should just embrace it. And see, just look, embrace it. And it is not then you are coming to tell us that it is time for you to cancel or bring back e-levy, or it is then you want to redo some taxes or things.
But it wouldn't shock me. But you were all here when they said they removed road tolls and then they started soft launching road tolls again.
My point is they can bring it.
Like we're all here.
My point is it's just for
And
reference.
no one argued to take it away.
Yeah,
That's right. Nobody had a
Yes.
So
Yes.
Let's just bring this back respectfully again. The line we are going is going to be some mad dark ages we are about to enter.
Okay.
Why you fear monkeys?
Yeah, if maybe Mama, it is Dumsor 2.0. If it is Baobizi and Uncle Nappy. Oh my God. People, honestly,
I
it's going
know
to be
that
fun.
it sounds like very fun and exciting, but like 8 years ago, we had people who literally were wailing because their businesses literally went down the drain. Like they had over 12 years, like everything down the drain because we had an energy crisis. And this thing is looming. It's literally election year. If it's election year and we're experiencing this, it means it's really bad. Because usually they try to curtail a lot of things during the last year. And if we are still experiencing this, so much that I can write like my own timetable for my side. Charlie, it's serious.
24 hours economy with Dumsor, digitalization with Dumsor would see in Jesus.
So
No, that would be so fun.
it's crazy. Either policies,
like you people should put it in your head.
either police, they
Either
like
Dumsor or digitalization, you didn't need the light.
Yeah.
We did here in Jesus' name.
And I just to add up to that, right? I think this is something I was really thinking about. I think I was talking with Boso about this. I think the money that the Ghanaian government owes these plants is about $250 million. You see, the way they are talking about it, Ghanaians don't
found like something under someone's bed. Like, why don't we just like?
You see, that's what I was getting to. That's what I was getting to. Coming. So I feel like one, we are desensitized as a Ghanaian populace when it comes to the amounts of value of money. We are desensitized.
Money is lost.
And because we keep hearing $1 million, $50 million for this, $20 million, to an extent where the Sislada issue, the $1 million, I was listening to the radio and they were like, but $1 million is not a lot of
Obviously,
money.
People go to Bloomberg and spend $1 million.
That's what I say.
That's what
I say. But the point is that we are a bit desensitized when it comes to the huge amount of monies that are actually being talked about because of all the things that we keep hearing over the past couple of years. The second thing is that we have spent vast amounts of money on, in my opinion, things that don't compare to how important our power or our energy is. From cathedrals to the sports, the All African Games, feeding people with huge amounts of money, to a number of things. We can always have the arguments about how those things were important, but you can never tell me that they are equally important as our power.
Or they were wet as much as was clean.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell me, watching from home, that like you know more about the technical issues of how debt works and how we finance things with credits and all those things. But the point is, we still owe a huge amount of money. We spend a lot of other money on things that are less important. So you can't take that away.
I think your credit worthiness will be down to how you're able to pay this.
Just don't even get there.
And all of that is a matter of
credit scores.
yes, like your money. Like you should. So let's say you owe 10 people, right? Now you've been able to pay 5 of them. The other 5 you've not paid are calm. Because they know from your past ability to pay 5 people that you can also come and pay them. Now, if you get so broke, so you owe now 20 people, you're still able to pay 5. Tell me what happens to your credit worthiness. 5 out of 10 versus 5 out of 20. And that's what we are doing. Now we're owing more and more and more because you actually are not generating enough to pay anybody. That is where we are. Economy is not one that generates money already. And now we are owing extra. And let me not get
I think the end to this conversation is this: like we've talked about what the looming threat looks like, how it's going to be terrible if it happens, how it's literally going to harm every policy that both ruling parties have. We hope and pray. I don't like using hope and pray. It's such a Ghanaian thing. The Ghanaian government.
I'm on Ghana this week.
But like that's certain stereotypes. That's certain stereotypes we need to stop about. Because sometimes it's not about God. It's about human beings. Yes. So by that I mean we should just do the right thing, and I hope we do the right thing. That's
Amen.
it.
Do you think there should be ethical guidelines for AI, the use of AI?
Oh, definitely. There should be ethical guidelines. There are, but you see,
we can't go back to that conversation.
I think this thing has. How many tournaments have we done with debate and AI for the past 4 years?
Yeah.
For me, ethical guidelines. It depends on the context. If it is in
With
Ghana,
regards to political campaigns.
Yeah. The Twitter bots.
Guys, I'm sorry. Let's get back here.
The Twitter
Let's get
bots.
back here.
India.
See, once again, the influence of the media and how PR is run in this country, after this whole conversation is out, just makes you understand why you see certain things. You now get why the things that are saying those things are not humans. They don't feel what you are feeling. It makes sense because,
bro, let's put this in context. Right? The context is this. I was on Twitter, so the conversation is about how there's an accusation of the current government, not just them.
No, we are not talking about that yet. We're just talking about political campaigns in general.
Okay.
Nobody's talking about any political party.
All right, let me give you the context. So let me give you the context, right? I was on Twitter and then I saw, they arrested some people. Someone for having, they didn't even arrest anyone. They seized guns at the port recently. I don't know whether the flight or port, but they seized guns. And then we don't know who it came from. Then the media didn't tell us. But what we found out was that someone on Twitter put a picture of one of the NDC youth organizers and said, So this guy was caught with guns and everything, and it was written, it was there. And so if you didn't know about the issue, and you got your primary source of information is Twitter or social media, which is becoming more of the case because more young people are immediately on their phone first before
and community
anything.
knows they didn't say anything about it.
No, there was no community. The community doesn't really see. We'll talk about how those things work later. But the point is, someone who first thing goes to Twitter and scrolls and sees that so the NDC people are bringing guns into the country. Disinformation, misinformation. This government has prided itself on being campaigning against those kind of things. We see all kinds of shows and committees and whatever on those things.
Yeah.
My problem is that these things are happening, but it seems like it's happening at a low level to an extent where they are not calling it out, or there's really I'm not seeing any active solution to those people being called out. And which means how are your cyber security things working?
Who are you going to call out? They are bots. You can't trace them to anyone.
Exactly. I think then we need to have a bigger conversation on the manipulation of AI tools when it comes to politics and all those things.
And
but
then we need to talk about
today.
political narratives and how this AI, in a space of, let's say, 2 years, not even 4, 2 years, have shaped the political narratives that are existing now. Especially when we are a few days to elections.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What do you think?
18 days.
So I think
18 days to election.
With the kind of I don't think we have enough time to talk about the kind of things that I want to talk about. But I think the only thing I would say on that topic is that currently social media is an extremely powerful tool when it comes to social media, the impact on political narrative. So, for instance, I had a conversation about whether Twitter influences people to even protest, right? And I think people were dragging me when I said that, influencers don't have, an impact. Well, they do have an impact, right? People listen to them and do things. I don't think they do, but people think they do. People listen to them.
Somebody was offered $50,000.
Allegedly.
Allegedly offered.
Yeah. So the point is that there's a lot of people's opinions are shaped largely on social media and based on influence, based on what they see. So it makes sense for Twitter bots, for AI tools to largely impact the outcome of how people think about certain issues, whether they will even vote and who they will even vote for. Right? Yeah. That's just it.
And before we conclude for today, because we had a very lengthy conversation, how does this affect our democratic governance and the trust we have in it?
I think.
Ralph, why are you laughing?
Sorry, it's no, so the reason I'm laughing is because how you people think these elections of democracy and the AI, the elections people are saying buckets when advance on this side. You would think it's AI now. I'm sorry, I'm doing street knowledge, but because I'm on a street.
I get where you are now. I'll deal with that too.
I'm sorry, I just
So
have to
let
say
me
that.
know what you think. We'll
I
go
think
to Ralph
with
later.
every emerging technology, see, humans, we are goddamn smart. When I say smart, it's not like individual, we are all Einsteins, we did there, but we are very adaptive species. The thing with AI and its dangers is some people will benefit from the dangers, but how dangers are of the nature that they affect everyone. State of nature. The weak can be killed and the strongest can be killed in his sleep. If you are the strong man who's going around killing people, you can also be killed in your sleep. And so the possibility that everyone can be affected by something always leads to us finding ways to regulate it. We will figure it out.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we'll suffer small. Then in the suffering, the reason why I say it's small is because, like Ralph said, this election and any election we're going to have for the next, God knows, 20, 30 years, remember that a good chunk of our population from 40 upwards still is largely uneducated. So at least 40 to 60 for the next 20 years, 5 election cycles, we're still going to have so many of those people who are going to vote. They are people.
Before you continue, why do you think that there's a huge difference between the uneducated and the educated?
No. I'm just talking about. I don't think about. It's not about mindset. The people who have access to the susceptibility of AI. I'm not going to have that conversation that markets women vote this way because they are not educated. No. Markets women largely do not interact with AI tools simply because they cannot use them.
Please hold on.
For now. You understand? So my grandma is fine using her yam. even though we've tried changing it so many times. Ghana has those feature phones.
Yeah.
Because that's what she's used to. That's what she can.
Honestly,
she can
if
work.
I go on, for the adults that are using Instagram, Facebook, how many of them do you think are able to differentiate AI videos from not?
They are the ones. They are the first. They are the first to send a video.
And the reason I'm saying
they are the
this
first to send a video of like a cat swallowing a snake from Facebook to the family group chat.
Let's even take away
they are the first to do it.
Let's take away those aunties and uncles. The people that you say are woke and know it. How many of us, because sometimes we are victims, when you see something trend on Twitter, how many of us, before we react, take our time to relax, assess the information, look at how it's looking?
I think you guys are misunderstanding my point. My point
is, what I'm doing is here, because
the way she's making it look like...
So
it's not like I am saying educated people are not successful. No, what I am saying is that fortunately, in fact, I'm saying educated people are susceptible. Fortunately, we don't have enough of them. So I had to do some research on like internet usage. In part of my LLM program, I was writing an essay, and this is like a year ago. Total Ghana population, proportion of Ghanaians on Twitter at the time was like 700,000. It keeps increasing. So right now I have not checked, but the ratio or the proportion, the trend which is that we now have up to 2 million Ghanaians on Twitter, like actual active real life Ghanaians. Remember that 700,000 included bots and double this.
Exactly.
Real life humans who use social media. People may forget that we are actually a very poor country and so many people do not have access or like viable access to the internet. As soon as you leave Accra, as soon as you leave Kumasi, as soon as you leave the major city centers, there is no internet. See, where I live at home, the network is on edge. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, but
so those are the reality. So the people who like the vast majority of people don't have access to to fall victim. The people who currently have access and can fall victim are a proportion. It's still a significant proportion because in this country, 40,000 people determined the 2008 election. Yes. But by the time the internet coverage, because internet use, will be so big that will be the sort of problem that we are all talking about. I have this much faith in humans that I've already explained earlier that would have figured out how to do it.
Because you think we are smart.
Yep.
And also,
and
we are astute.
Like I said, it affects everybody, including those who want to use it. And mutually assured distraction.
Ralph, let me hear.
Conclusive statements, because producer is... We've had very good show today, all thanks to the astute gentleman and the lady there.
And the astute Briscoe.
I just say again, I know he's done the research on the internet usage. I still think that lots of people have access to the internet, but the kind of contributions that they make are not as much as we think they do. Lots of people in Ghana are internet consumers. The people that create the content in the countries or the people that contribute to them are, if you look at the ratio, are very disproportionate. So most people just like viewing or sharing. The people that create the content in Ghana, and as much as people try to make it look like there are a lot, the honest truth is just a few people. When you go on Twitter, even let's use Twitter as an example, it's the same people that are talking all the time that start conversations and the same people that have the conversation. Just the same people, the same thousands or 2,000, or let's give them worst case scenario 100,000 people. That's a lot. 20,000 people on Ghana Twitter that shape conversations or contribute to them are the ones that do it. Everybody else, just like bots, are liking or unreasonably dancing to the biggest hits on Twitter. And that is reasonably or unreasonably. Like just that way, that's the way to do it. But people who actively make these conversations are not a lot. That's to say, I get where your AI conversation is coming from, but I still think that for it to have an effect in this election, or the elections we'll have in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's a long shot to call. We can't predict how fast we would evolve to AI evolution, but I just think for this particular election, I don't see the best thing you can plug into AI is if AI is doing video of saying MPP saying something NDC said, all those things. But those things sometimes they are not AI. Those people actually said it.
Now, before you continue, before we end this, because really our producer is really looking at us. But before we do, on Twitter usually you see something, right? You sort of agree. So you open the comments and see someone else's response to it and say, actually, I don't agree to it anymore. That is like the kind of role I think AI bots can play, especially with regards to elections and perceptions and political narratives. Because there's one point where you're actually agreeing to what somebody says. So you read something else and you're like, you do a double take. Unless, of course, something that is very close to maybe a value or something that you have or truth that you already know.
This is where
usually it sways your thoughts process.
I think maybe I'm just a mean person.
Yeah. It's a mean person, but two influencers and the kind of important role that they have. Once again, if some influencers say something, people would just believe because they are the one that said it.
I've never
Sheldon,
been moved.
Kali J, if they say certain things.
Why are we name dropping?
No, there's something. Those are like
Because
the biggest. They're the biggest guys that like if they say it, there are people that would always agree. There are people that would always disagree. There are people that sway conversations, though, but they are not a lot. See, if you look at the tea most of the time, there are people that call the shots. When it comes to political tweets, you see people like Buhari, or you see people like Perry. Like when you look at certain conversations, they have the way they go. Or you see famous journalists, Nanaba. Like there are conversations, you know, the people that shape those trends.
Our very own.
Our very own. Who?
Our very own. Two of our very own.
Hey, we beg. we beg.
Oh, no, I'm not telling you of that. The point is for you to know how conversations are shaped. I don't want this astute young lady wants to try. The point is, people that contribute to conversations are not a lot. Let us always put that. So the same way we think bots operate is literally the same way usually most of these human minds operate.
Yes.
They support you, they disagree, they disagree. Either you like it or not. As long as they belong to a political party. If somebody who belongs to MPP now, they tell you there was a problem with free SHS, they can defend with their whole life to death and tell you there is no problem. If somebody tells you there was Dumsor, let's just agree that the same way we think bots work is how most mind people work, and the people that have an objective mindset on them or people that contribute to the conversations are a little bit minute. So the AI idea is there, but we have our natural AI in Africa that is deciding for us.
So, any last words before we end the podcast today?
All right, so
On the topic?
So on this topic, I'll say that all I'll say is that like at the end of the day, it still boils down to individuals and the ability for them to not act like mindless robots and take anything that everyone says just like that. You just need to be able to look through, decide for yourself, and make the right decision. Don't rush to every information to just act like believe. You know, I know a lot of people never ever verify information because even me, that I do it because I don't want to sound stupid when I'm talking to certain people. I don't want to be found out that I said something that wasn't true. That's why I usually check those things. So even with that, I hardly ever check. So it becomes a very dicey thing when we expect everybody to verify every information they get. Let's see how that works out for us.
Also, last words on the topic?
My faith in human beings. And I don't know. I have faith. Like that's the thing. We don't like being swindled, and this thing will have everyone getting swindled. And so I believe in us to look out for our own interests at some point.
That's fine.
It's not what?
Bro, let's go.
It wasn't the one saying debt and not debt. So feel free to tell him.
Swindle. Leave me alone.
Away from that, I think today's episode has been a great one. Unfortunately, I'm not the host, but all thanks to the astute gentlemen and Zoe, I actually enjoyed the conversation. I'll forgive her for that still. But I still think when you get information again, because of depends on the kind of conversation and your reaction to it. You see some things, you don't need to verify, you get mad. You go and blow without verifying. Those things are bad. But at the same time, I just think as humans, smart thinking humans or average humans, we should just try to always see how much we can verify information. Thank you.
Great. Let's rate Ghana this week. Bannerman.
The country Ghana or the program?
The country Ghana.
The country Ghana. Charlie, I think Lanchomansin really excited me this week. So I would say maybe a 7.
7?
Yeah.
Also, Ghana this week?
Charlie, perpetual 6. I'm never happy with this country, but I know things can get better.
6 is quite high for a country I'm not happy about.
Like I said, it's like I always have hope that things can get better. As soon as you rate someone below 5, like 5 and down, you're like, you doom them to wherever they be. But 6, it's not nice, but there's hope. I can't give up on my country.
Raphael, Ghana this week. Let's be nice.
4.
Jesus Christ.
It's Hala week. For Hala week, this week is apart from the other stuff, like this week it's really been tough. November 2 is showing a shaggy, but we hope things get better from next week going. Right?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Ghana This Week for our 4th episode. We hope these conversations were able to sort of change your narrative or give you better insights on the topics that happened this week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Sharp Podcast. We are also on Spotify, so you could listen if you don't want to watch our pretty faces. See you same time next week. I won't be here. Ralph will be here, but still going to be very insightful conversation with one less astute person. All right. Thank you and see you next week. Bye.